You've won an award tonight. Tell me, what does that mean to you?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It's wonderful that a song disc like this, which is a very particular, very narrow song disc, really, because while it has the name Peter Pears in it, there's one big piece on it, Britain, and the rest are composers who, not necessarily outside of Britain, many would have heard of. And so it means a great deal that those are recognised, but also it means the work that Signum have done on this disc is just rewarded. They've worked so hard to make this disc, and I had all the pleasure in that I just get to sing it, and they produced it. So I'm delighted that the whole team get recognition for it.
How did it all come together?
The programme or the disc?
Well, the whole, from really sort of start to finish. I mean, how did it all happen?
Slowly, as with any of these types of discs. Because we're not saying we're going to record a work that takes an hour and a half, making the programme takes time. The difficult thing I had with this disc was not what should be on the disc, but what should be left off the disc. Because all the songs on this disc are either commissioned by, or inspired by, or written for Peter Pears. And there's an awful lot of music that he commissioned, an awful lot of composers who were inspired by him. And so trying to work out what we could keep on the disc, what we could put on the disc was tricky. Some pieces were just too long. They would take too much time because I wanted to have whole works. There's no one single song. There are whole works on this. And so that eliminated a few things. But having the option of being able to bring in a guitar and a cello as well as the piano meant that I could include pieces which were important not just to Pears, but to those composers. To have the guitar songs, they were commissioned by Pears for Alba. But the work before, the Houseman settings set by Barclay, they were put in a drawer for 40 years and not performed. Peter Pears did not sing them because they were just written too close to a period where Britain and Barclay had broken up and then Pears came in. They were just, the history was too recent, and so Pears never sang them. To then come to a piece like the Rodney Bennett, which Pears commissioned and was delighted, having heard Rodney Bennett's music at a music competition, saying, I want this piece. Here's this 12-tone piece, really difficult to put to memory, to perform, and Pears embraces it and by all accounts gave a stonking performance of it. To finally a piece that was inspired, it was written after Pears had died, but inspired by the sheer memory of what he could do on stage. So the disc has a nice arc in that way, but so it shows both Pears's interest, but also his influence. And I think that was the most important thing to me, in that I'm not trying to sing all of Pears's favorite hits. You know, there's no Dowland, there's no Schubert. This is purely music that's inspired by an artist. And in that way, it was extremely rewarding to perform.
So is there one sort of moment in that recording that's the most memorable for you?
The very last song of the guitar settings that we recorded on that day, the postlude to the song, Sean plays ba 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 da da, and then he shifted position on the fretboard and played a note. He could have played it up here on a higher string. He chose to play it on a lower string, higher up the fretboard. And he plucked the string, and the sound, it's still ringing in my head. I actually, when we stopped the recording, I laughed. It was so amazing. And it was the very last note we recorded. And he hit this bell. It was incredible. Incredible. I hadn't, and I probably said it to him, but I was very fortunate to hear Julian Bream in possibly his last performance in Wigmore Hall when he did a memorial concert for Jill Balcombe. And I had been sharing a dressing room with him, and he said, I can't do his accent, but what are you singing? And I said, I'm singing whatever it was I was singing. And he said, I'm singing a piece that by a composer I'm playing a piece by a composer you've probably never heard of. And he said, I'm doing this Cyril Scott sonatina. And I said, no, I've sung quite a lot of Cyril Scott songs. You know, and so we had this conversation about Cyril Scott, and then we had this conversation like what music was written last week. He was still up to date. But I sang my songs, and I ran underneath Wigmore Hall up to the balcony, and he was introduced by this wonderful Graham Johnson line. Jill Balcombe was a fan of the Trout, but she would never say no to impeccably prepared Bream, and out he walked. And the place erupted because he hadn't been on stage for years. And he played this first note of the Cyril Scott sonatina, bong, and it's the same quality of sound that Sean makes. It was an amazing moment to hear Sean play that last line.
You've performed tonight in front of a vast array of fellow musicians. Tell me, what was that like?
It was lovely to be invited to sing. I was thrilled that Sean could be here to play some of their songs. Malcolm, sadly, I think, is in America. If I can have one complaint, please don't put me up after Sir Thomas Allen. To hear him sing over the recording and then have him speak and then for me to stand up, that was a bit daunting. But it was lovely to be able to be here and to bring this music. It's always enjoyable stuff to sing.
What about the sort of the world of classical music? Where do you see it in having done this project? Where do you see things moving? Let's say, look at 10 years in the future.
It's funny. I don't know. This year I've spent a lot of time in Korea, doing an opera and doing the first performance of Turn of the Screw there, and the people that go to the symphony and go to the opera are every age. Children are brought. And that's not something I've seen here in the UK for quite some time. But it's going to sound really traditionalist of me, and I'm not trying to say any approach is wrong, because bringing music to people is difficult enough without being told there's a wrong way to do it, because there isn't a wrong way to do it. The only thing I fear is that we lessen the music. Bringing the best music that we can, performing the best that we can, I think is the best thing we can do to attract anybody to listen to classical music. You can make it at an earlier time in the day, which I think is a great idea. You can allow people to bring a drink into the auditorium, which is fine too, but don't dilute the music. I think the product that we have is so great, and it's great because of its own greatness. I know that sounds silly, but I really hope there's a reason these things have lasted for so long. There's a reason that a Schubert piano sonata is as great now as it was the day somebody first heard it. And we can't lose that tradition and that value in the things we produce.